I still remember what my grandfather told me when I was a child: this land is cursed. Our ancestors once saw an angel fall from the sky and die here. For as long as anyone could remember, strange things happened in these parts: heavy footsteps in the woods, voices like cattle speaking human words, hunters vanishing far more often than in any other village. Those stories haunted me as a child. Whenever we returned to the family farm, I was terrified to look out the window at night. But they came with the warmest memories too, drinking hot tea and listening to stories by the bonfire with my grandparents. A terrible earthquake struck 20 years later. The barn collapsed, and my grandparents were lost beneath it. I was consumed by grief for an entire year. 3 years after that, the city wore me down. I worked as a bank clerk, and the stress became unbearable. My doctor suggested a change of environment to help treat my depression, so I moved back to the old farm in Cumbria. Nothing else made me feel as peaceful as the place where I had my happiest memories. The house had been abandoned for years. It took me a full week to clean it up. The cobwebs alone could rival my grandmother's yarn balls. At night, I sat in my grandfather's old chair by the fireplace. The darkness outside no longer frightened me. But it wasn't the same anymore. The warmth was gone. The next morning, I started working the land using the old layout my grandfather had left. Potatoes, lettuce, radishes, onions, tomatoes, everything I remembered from my childhood. Just tilling a single patch of soil took the entire morning. I stood with my hoe and looked out over the lake, listening to the sounds of birds and animals in the forest. I felt peace for the first time in years. Time slipped by in that quiet countryside. My therapist in town said I was doing much better. If things kept up, he said I might even fully recover. I didn't want to go back to the city. I was falling in love with the life out here. But just when I thought things were getting better, the unexpected happened. Something, or someone, was stealing my crops. At first, I thought it was just animals. After all, the nearest neighbor was a 15-minute drive away. It couldn't be people. I remembered my grandfather cursing, "Those damn raccoons," when I was a kid, so I assumed it was the same issue. I didn't mind losing a few vegetables. I even thought of it as giving something back to nature. But as more and more of my harvest went missing, I started to worry. On the morning of July 16th, peak harvest season, I went out to the fields and stopped in my tracks. Nearly a third of my crops were gone. Entire rows had been emptied. That's when I knew I had a real problem. I spent the following days researching animal deterrents. I asked around in town, bought fencing and repellents, and set up everything I could to protect the crops. I stared out over the woods and the lake and noticed something strange: the animals were quieter than before. Had they run out of food in the forest? Is that why they were coming here? But despite my efforts, the theft continued. Week after week, the vegetables kept disappearing. My concern turned to frustration. I started inspecting the garden for footprints, for anything that might tell me what was doing this. Was someone living out here? Sneaking in at night to steal food? Then I noticed something even stranger. The stolen vegetables, especially the root crops like potatoes, were taken with surgical precision. No stalks, no broken stems. It was as if they were harvested, perfectly. Or greedily. I couldn't understand it. A few nights later, I sat by the window, sipping whiskey and watching the darkness beyond the trees. That's when I saw it. A shadow. Moving. As tall as the trees. I wanted to believe I was drunk, hallucinating. Maybe I was relapsing, like the breakdown I had back at the bank. After that night, I kept the curtains shut and slept with a nightlight, just like when I was a kid. But this time, I was alone. My mental state deteriorated. My doctor increased my sleeping meds. The pills made me sleep through the mornings, and time slipped by. Before I knew it, 2 months had passed. I harvested what I could, sold what I didn't need. In town, the hunters were complaining, no rabbits, no deer. Nothing in the forest. Autumn crept in. The life in this area seemed to drain away. No birdsong. No rustling. What was happening? Was it the medication? Everything felt like a dream. Unreal. I decided to make a stew. I went to the storage shed, grabbed an onion, and brought it into the kitchen. When I sliced it open, I screamed. There, inside the onion, was an ear. A human ear. Underdeveloped, like a fetus. Half-formed. Clear fluid oozed from the cut onto the counter. It took a while before I could even react. Then I swept everything, onion, cutting board, knife, into the trash. Poured myself a drink and tried to stop shaking. What was that? A mutation? Some freak of genetics? How could a plant grow a human organ? I felt sick. I had been eating these crops for months. I remembered the rest of the onions and potatoes stored in the shed and felt a wave of nausea. My grandfather said this land was cursed. That an angel died here. No. That was just a story. Just a legend meant to scare children. I started breathing the way my doctor taught me, deep abdominal breathing. Slowly, my heart rate settled. My body relaxed. I sat down. Then I heard something outside. A rustling sound. Subtle. Wrong. I grabbed the old iron poker from the fireplace and crept toward the window. Just a quick look. Just a peek through the curtain. Maybe it was an animal. Maybe my scream had drawn something in. But when I saw the shapes moving around my house, I understood true fear. I ran. Grabbed my keys. Threw open the back door. Tripped. Crawled. Stumbled into my truck and drove away as fast as I could. I won't describe what I saw. I'll only tell you what it was. The plants are alive. They weren't stolen. They left on their own. They feed on each other. They grow stronger together. They're the reason the forest is silent now. I hope this is all in my head. I hope the doctor tells me it's a hallucination. A side effect of the pills. This land is cursed. An angel fell and died here. We are cursed. And it is still growing. I can't bear to see it again. Not in daylight. Not at night. Not the fields. Not the trees. Not the lake. But I know it will come for me. I'm writing this down before I find a high place and jump. If you're reading this, I hope you're braver than I was. Face the curse.